Howdy. We are now going on to Chapter 15, Video 2. So, as we continue our discourse on types of attack and malicious software, we're going to be talking about how attacks on computer systems and networks can be grouped. They can be grouped into two broad categories. I think specific broad is an oxymoron. Attacks on specific software. Okay, we're looking at a specific software application. There's an oversight in the code, possibly in the testing of the code or because of a flaw or bug in the code. And then attacks on a specific protocol or service. So attempts to take advantage of a feature of the protocol or service or use it in a manner for which it was not originally intended. We talked about denial of service attack. It's an attack designed to prevent a system or service from functioning normally. A DOS attack can exploit a known vulnerability in a specific application or operating system, or it can attack features or weaknesses in specific protocols and services. So understand this. A DOS attack can go both ways. Attack on a specific software or attack on specific protocol or service. Typically, we think of DOS attacks as the attacker attempting to deny authorized users access either to specific information or the computer system itself, and basically crashing the system or sending it so many requests that the machine is overwhelmed. So the purpose of a DOS attack can be simply to prevent access to the target system, or the attack can be used in conjunction with other actions to gain authorized access to a computer or network. For instance, an SYN flood attack can be used to prevent service to a system temporarily in order to take advantage of a trusted relationship that exists between systems and another system. So, just as I said, service to a system temporarily in order to take advantage of trusted relationship that exists, and it illustrates the principles of most DOS attacks. It exploits weaknesses inherent in the TCP/IP protocol, and this is important. It uses a TCP three-way handshake to flood a system with faked connection request. Why is that a three-way handshake? Think about it. Sender, receiver. I'm sending something to you. I send you a request to connect. You respond. What I know then is that you have received my request, but the receiver does not know that I have received the request. So the third part of that handshake is for the sender to again contact the receiver and say, yes, I received your acknowledgement. So a TCP three-way handshake, not a two-way. Sender, receiver. Point one, sender to receiver. Hey, are you there? Receiver to sender. Yes, I am. Sender to receiver. Hey, I got that you're there. So you do this enough, you flood a system with fake connection requests, shut the system down. So here's that shown in a diagram. So we first send system 1 sends a packet to system 2 indicating desire to communicate with the system. Hey, are you there? System 2 responds, yes, I'm here, I hear you, but without the third handshake for the system, the original system sender to say, yes, I received that you heard me. So you do this enough times, and this kind of flooding is an example of a DOS attack that takes advantage of the way the networks were designed to function and can be used to illustrate the basic principles of any DOS attack. Flooding uses the TCP three-way handshake not as it was intended. It's intended to establish connection between two systems. So under normal circumstances, the first system sends its packet to the system, when it communicates, the second responds. When the system receives it from the second, it responds, all right? But this is a good example of misuse of a protocol to cause a DOS attack by flooding the system with these types of three-way handshake communication. Another is the infamous ping of death. The ping of death targets a specific application or operating system. It sends an internet control message protocol, ping, packet equal to or exceeding it. Certain systems, it says older systems are not able to handle the size of packet and the system will hang or crash. The ping of death can just be sending so much data that the system can't respond. So it's operationally ineffective. So a DOS attack employing multiple attacking systems is known as a DDoS, distributed denial of a system. The difference between the two are the attack centers on the ability of the DDoS to use the combined resources of many systems. So an entire network of attack agents can be commandeered and controlled by an attacker. So the target system is not just be hitting by one system, but by multiple systems. So even if it can break the connection between one of the systems attacking it, there are so many more systems attacking it. So it denies access or service to authorized users. It uses resources of many systems, and it overwhelms the target system or network. A smurf attack is a specific DOS attack where the attacker sends a spoof packet to the broadcast address for a network, then distributes the packets to all systems on that. And that's all the details. If you want to look more in this, look up at the IP address spoofing section. So other denial of service type attacks. To defend against this, again, what is the common theme we see through this? Ensure you have applied the latest patches and upgrades on your systems and the networks, and the applications running them. Change the timeout option for TCP connections so that attacks such as a flooding attack are more difficult to perform. For DDoS attacks, distribute your workload across several systems. And to prevent a DDoS attack, you must be able to intercept or block the attack messages or keep the DDoS network from being established in the first place. I'm not going to go through this. I'm leaving these slides in here. War dialing, war driving. If you're interested in this, I'm leaving these in here. I want to get to social engineering. It relies on lies and misrepresentation, which an attacker uses to trick an authorized user into providing information or access the attacker would not normally be entitled to. Contacting a system admin, pretending to be a user, posing as a representative from a vendor who needs temporary access to perform maintenance, calling HR. Kevin Mitnick has some good examples in his book, calling operations control, saying you're part of an installation crew and you're there to install something, but the address is wrong. You have the guy's name, then you get his address, calling HR with his name and address, claiming to be a service provider for the 401k. You got his name and his address and other information, but he forgot to fill out his social security number, and on and on. I would suggest, again, you Google Kevin Mitnick, and he invented the term and has taught us much about the power of social engineering. Now, null session is connection to a Windows inter-process communication share. It's not important anymore. This is here for historical reasons, and unfortunately, if you're going to do this Security Plus exam, it's still listed there, so that's why I left this slide in. Sniffing, someone examines all the network traffic that passes the NIC, whether addressed to them or not. Software or hardware. It can be used to view all traffic or target a specific protocol, service, or even string of characters. It can be used to modify some or all traffic en route, or it can just be used to spy on the traffic. And network administrators use sniffers to monitor and troubleshoot network performance. So here's what a network sniffer, hardware or software, used to observe traffic as it passed through a network or shared broadcasting media. It can view all traffic or just specific protocol, service, or even a string of characters. For instance, trying to look for a login. Some network sniffers are designed not just to observe all traffic, but to modify traffic. Network sniffing is more difficult in switched network environments due to the way the collision domains are eliminated. Okay. Network sniffers can be used by network admins to monitor performance, so it's got a good and bad usage. It can be used by attackers to gather information that can be used in penetration attempts. And for network sniffers to be effective, they need to be on the internal network, which generally means there are chances for outsiders to use them against you are extremely limited. Now, spoofing. Nothing more than making data look like it has come from a different source. You can spoof IP addresses, you can spoof logins, you can spoof usernames, whatever. When a packet is sent from one system to another, it includes not only the destination IP address and port, but the source. So you're supposed to fill in the source with your own address, but nothing stops you from filling in another system's address. And this is one of several forms of spoofing. I've heard people say the only way to really do attacks is either to bypass encryption, spoofing, or, that there's a very limited number, and spoofing being a big one. So TCP hijacking is where the terms are used to refer to the process of taking control of an already existing session between a client and a server, and the attacker does not have to circumvent any authentication mechanisms. The attack can be disguised with a DOS attack, and the hijack attacks generally used against web and telnet sessions. So we refer to the process of taking control of an existing system between a client and server. The advantage of this, of the attacker of hijacking over attempting to penetrate a computer system or network, is that the attacker doesn't have to circumvent any authentication mechanisms. Think about this. I just hijack it. I just take it over. The user's already been authenticated and established a session. To prevent the user from noticing anything unusual, the attacker can decide to attack the system and perform a DOS attack on it, taking it down so this user and the system will not notice the extra traffic that's taking place. And hijack attacks generally used against web, telnet sessions, something like that. Sequence numbers they apply to spoofing also apply to session hijacking, since the hijacker will need to provide the correct sequence number to continue the appropriate session. Man-in-the-middle attacks are just that. There's something in the middle. Occurs when attackers are able to place themselves in the middle of two other hosts. So it can be accomplished by compromising a router to alter the path of traffic. It can be the attacker can observe all traffic before relaying it and can actually modify or block it. To the target host, it appears that communication is occurring normally, since everything you expect to be replies are being received. And there are numerous methods of instantiating a man-in-the-middle attack. One of the most common is via session hijacking, when information such as a cookie is stolen, allowing the attacker to impersonate the legitimate session. The attack can be a result of a cross-site scripting attack. Cross-site scripting attack, you will see this in the OWASP top 10 list next week, which tricks the user into executing code resulting in cookie theft. The amount of information that can be obtained in a man-in-the-middle attack will obviously be limited. The communication is encrypted. But even in this case, sensitive information can still be obtained, since knowing what communication is being conducted and between which individuals may in fact provide information. And the problem with this is you always wonder if the information is compromised, even if it's encrypted. Has it been that encryption broken? So here's a good man-in-the-middle attack. Communication appears to be direct, but you got the bad guy, the attacker. So I send host 1 sends something to host 2, but actually host 1 is going through an attacker to get through host 2. These are good attacks to know about because it's sometimes used to refer to a more specific type of attack. The attacker can conduct a man-in-the-middle attack by intercepting a request for a friend's public key and the resending of your public key to him. Ding, 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 ding. Now you've got a man-in-the-middle attack bypassing your encryption. So well-designed cryptographic products use techniques such as mutual authentication to avoid this problem. Extremely important to know. You can circumvent the whole structure of protecting the public and private keys by intercepting that. And a replay attack occurs when the attacker captures a portion of communication between two parties and retransmits it at a later time. So generally, relay attacks are associated with attempts to circumvent authentication mechanisms, such as the capturing or use of a certificate or ticket. The best way to prevent relay attacks is with encryption, cryptographic authentication, and timestamps. If a portion of the certificate or ticket, including a date time stamp or an expiration date time, and this portion is also encrypted as part of that, replaying it at a later time will prove useless since it will be rejected as having expired. Okay, does that make sense? So a replay attack occurs when the attacker captures a portion of a communication between two parties and retransmits at a later time. And they're associated with attempts to circumvent authentication mechanisms. The best way to prevent this is with encryption or cryptographic authentication or timestamps. So if a session is replayed later, it will have expired. Spam, our old friend spam. Though not generally considered social engineering nor a security issue, it can be a security concern because it's bulk unsolicited email. And it can be legitimate in the sense that it can be sent by a company advertising a product or service, but it can also be malicious and could include an attachment that contains malicious software. So spam is basically bad. It's unwanted. We don't want it. I don't care about refinancing my student loans. I don't have any student loans. I don't care about getting a $250,000 loan for my business. I don't have a business that needs a $250,000 loan. I don't care about health insurance for my family. I don't have a family I have to worry about insuring. Let's see, what are some of the others I've gotten this week? You know, just on and on. It's annoying. If you have a good email filter, it captures a lot of the spam, but not all. But sometimes, again, you get the false positive. Gee, it looks like spam, put it in the spam folder. I know of one case this happened to a law firm. They lost a major client because they missed a deadline, because when he was emailing the attorney, it was caught up in the attorney's spam folder. The client didn't want to hear any silly excuses. I also know that an A&M's own quarantine that tries to capture messages, which I get about, I don't know, 24 a day, that are some kind of spam or nefarious, that for some reason, will capture information from a legitimate university named Purdue, and almost prevented me from accepting a position on a workshop, because I didn't realize the acceptance had gone into my spam folder, or quarantine folder, as A&M calls it, until the day before my acceptance was due. Spam, it's not as well known. It's deleted via internet messages. This is an old slide. Does somebody still use Yahoo Messenger or AOL Instant Messenger? But we do use Facebook Messenger and others. And it's the same as spam, just malicious content or links, or frankly, I'm getting more of this now with the election, and it's kind of like, I don't want to hear this. If you want to, if you want to send me something in my email. Don't mess up my messenger. Phishing, of course, fraudulent emails or instant messages that appear to be genuine. Talked about this. Spear phishing has enough information in it that it lowers someone's kind of paranoia that it's not what it appears to be. It looks completely valid because it's got some specific information. I'm going to go through these quickly because this video is getting rather long. Vishing, type of phishing that uses voice communication. Pharming, misdirecting users to a fake website. And I'll end with this, scanning attacks. So a scan can help determine an OS type and version based on a TCP/IP stack response. It can also help to determine firewalls rules. And these attacks can be used to consume system resources. So when you consume system resources, what should be going through your head? That's a DOS attack. So there's ways around this. Advanced firewalls can detect these, alerting people to scanning activities. When you go through this video, please emphasize what I've emphasized. You should know each type of attack that we've talked about and how it can be perpetrated, how things, if it's through software or through protocols, and just key points for each of those. And I'm always, if you have any questions, please email me. We have one more video in this chapter. Thank you.